On June 14, 2022, 7 men sat around a casual dinner table and accidentally wiped $1.7 billion off the South Korean stock market in a single evening. When BTS announced they were taking a temporary break to fulfill their mandatory military service, the global media declared it the end of an era. Wall Street panicked. HYBE's stock price cratered by nearly 28% in a matter of hours, and the entire music industry assumed the global K-pop throne was finally vacant. Historically, South Korea's mandatory military conscription law is the ultimate inescapable career killer for boy groups. 2 years of absolute radio silence usually dissolves fandom momentum, cools down public interest, and bleeds corporate revenue. For decades, the rule was simple. You enlist, you lose your spot. But behind the closed doors of HYBE headquarters, executives weren't mourning a hiatus. They were quietly executing a flawless, multi-billion-dollar corporate masterclass. While the world thought BTS was gone, an automated, hyper-lucrative content machine was spinning into overdrive. 7 distinct solo eras, chart-topping albums dropping like clockwork, and an early contract renewal that defied the logic of the entire entertainment business. Now that we are in 2026, and the group has officially reunited to launch the largest stadium tour the world has ever seen, the truth is finally undeniable. This is the inside story of how BTS faked the K-pop hiatus, outsmarted the global music system, and proved that even when they are completely invisible, they own the industry. To understand why this strategy was such a massive financial gamble, you have to look at the terrifying history of the K-pop military curse. In South Korea, conscription is a strict national duty. Every able-bodied man between the ages of 18 and 28 must serve roughly 18 to 21 months in the armed forces. There are no corporate loopholes. There are no buyouts. Even as BTS brought billions into the domestic economy and altered global pop culture, the law remained unyielding. For years, the political sphere debated granting them a unique artistic exemption. But while the politicians argued, HYBE realized that waiting for a government handout was a massive business liability. They needed to plan for the worst-case scenario, because in the brutal ecosystem of the music business, out of sight means out of mind. The entire K-pop business model relies on hypervisibility. Fandoms are sustained by daily content, constant social media interaction, weekly music show appearances, and non-stop merch drops. When a major group disappears into the military, a massive power vacuum is instantly created. Rival agencies spend tens of millions of dollars debuting new acts to aggressively steal that vacant market share. Historically, when groups returned after 2 years of silence, their fandoms had migrated, their streaming numbers had tanked, and their cultural leverage was gone. The system was designed to reset the board, but HYBE looked at the system and realized that if visibility was a metric they couldn't maintain physically, they would have to manufacture it digitally. The traditional military strategy for a boy band was simple: hide away, complete your service as a unit, and pray the public remembers your name when you get out. HYBE threw that entire playbook in the trash. Instead of a hiatus, they fractured BTS into 7 individual corporate superpowers, years before the first member ever reported to a military base. The entire timeline of their absence had been meticulously mapped out down to the exact day. The members spent years pulling double shifts, recording full-length solo albums, shooting high-budget music videos, and prepping concept art entirely in secret. They built an unbreakable vault of content. The execution of this rollout was terrifyingly efficient. The members staggered their enlistment dates perfectly, so that the group as a whole was never completely offline for more than 6 months. The second a member crossed the threshold into the military barracks, their pre-recorded solo era went live. The consumer didn't have time to miss them. When Jimin was wearing a military uniform, his solo single Like Crazy was actively marching to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. When Jung Kook reported for duty, his debut solo track 7 was rewriting history, shattering global records to cross 3 billion streams on Spotify faster than any artist in human history. From J-Hope's raw hip-hop era and Suga's massive global tours August to RM, and Jin dropping premium creative projects completely back-to-back, the market was entirely saturated. It was a psychological illusion. To the casual observer reading the news, BTS was away serving their country. But to the streaming algorithms, BTS had never been more dominant. They completely choked out the competition. Rival labels who thought they could use the hiatus to conquer the charts found themselves still fighting the ghosts of BTS solo releases every single Friday. But maintaining streaming numbers was only half the battle. HYBE had a much bigger problem to solve. institutional investors on Wall Street. The stock market hates uncertainty. Even with solo albums performing well, major shareholders were terrified of what would happen if the group decided not to renew their contracts upon leaving the military. In K-pop, contract negotiations are notoriously volatile, and a single member leaving can tank a company's entire valuation. In late 2023, right in the absolute middle of their enlistment rollout, HYBE pulled off their most brilliant corporate chess move. They announced that all 7 members of BTS had signed an early secondary contract renewal. To the average fan, this was a beautiful promise of a future reunion. But to the financial world, it was a declaration of total market security. Typically, artists wait until their contracts are expiring to negotiate, using their current peak visibility to demand massive payouts. BTS did the exact opposite. They locked down their long-term futures with HYBE while completely inactive in the military. This single maneuver completely stabilized HYBE's market cap during what should have been their weakest financial year. It sent a definitive message to global markets. The post-military era is already bought, paid for, and locked down. The company's primary asset wasn't going anywhere. By the time 2025 wrapped up and the final members were discharged, HYBE had completely bypassed the financial vulnerability that destroys standard entertainment labels. They turned an inevitable corporate crisis into a masterclass in risk management. BTS proved that the ultimate power in the modern music industry isn't just raw talent. It is absolute structural foresight. They took an unyielding mandatory government law that broke every single boy band before them and transformed it into an automated global empire. The military hiatus didn't break BTS. BTS broke the hiatus. If you want to understand how the music business actually runs behind the glitz, the glamour, and the surface-level fan wars, welcome to K-pop Japchae. Just like the iconic Korean dish, this channel is a curated mix of everything. We bring you deep financial data, corporate contract breakdowns, and the unfiltered structural truths behind your favorite artists, all while respecting your intelligence. My name is Japchae. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button right now to stay completely in the mix, and I will see you in the next deep dive.